Hi, I'm Rebecca Forstaff.
I'm Sherry Lynn.
I'm Patria Burchard.
And we're the Ladies of Tenchi Muyo at PMX.
Hi, everybody.
Hello.
I'm Rebecca Forstadt, and I was one of the people that played Mihoshi in Tenchi Muyo. And I've been doing voice acting for over 30 years. It's pretty crazy. And I've been in a lot of anime. On the IMDb it says 88 titles, but it's actually been quite a bit more. I can't remember what they are. But one of them was, I played the part of Minmay in Robotech. Some of my latest ones was Code Geass as Nunnally. And Sui Seiseki and Rosen Maidens. And there's just like a whole list. I actually copied it because I always forget what I did. So it's great to be here.
Hi, I'm Patria Burchard, and I played Ryoko in Tenchi Muyo. This is exciting. Tenchi is the only anime and the only animation I ever did, except for some background voices in Lane. I do a little bit of other voiceover, just some commercials that you probably don't care about, but that's it. Ryoko was my big thing, and I really am thrilled that you all are here.
Hey everybody, I'm Sherry Lynn, and I was fortunate enough to play Sasami, Tsunami, Pretty Sammy, and Naomi in a few of the first episodes. It kind of has a special place in my heart for anime because it was my first big one. Since then, I've done a lot of anime. I think my other favorite was probably Chesnut in Wolf's Rain. I love that character. And I do a lot of animation for Disney and Pixar, all of those movies, and try to keep as busy as I can. So nice to see you all here.
Hi, I'm Ellen Gerstel. I think I was the Mihoshi at the start of the series here, and that was the only anime that I did. I've done My Little Pony, Rude Dog and the Dweebs, lots of different types of animation for all different companies, but that was the only anime.
We'll open up Q&A now from them to you, of course. So if you guys would like to ask questions, I can bring around the mic. Other one. I can bring around the mic to whoever wants to raise their hand first. I love it.
There. So how does it feel to come to a convention after both show that's been around for a while, and to come to a convention and to see that you are so loved? It's always exciting. It's sort of surreal, really.
Yeah, it feels pretty darn good to see everybody still enjoying Tenchi after all these years.
Yeah, it's amazing that when you do something that has that kind of effect on people and that much of a response that you'd still be interested. It's great.
Rebecca and I were talking in the green room about how after today we have to go back to our normal lives. And our families and friends who go, oh, okay.
Next question. Don't be shy, guys. It's so many.
No, I was going to ask this question. Jeez. Oh, okay. Is there I guess a specific episode that you had the most fun doing for Tenchi?
It's hard to remember them all after all this time, but I have one. It was the one where Ryoko got to be really bad and run around the galaxy with the bad guy robbing banks. And she's like bleeding in a chair and weeping for Tenchi. That was my favorite. What was that?
You got the DVDs here, want to watch it?
Mine was funny because I played Mihoshi mainly in it, but I also played the part of a karaoke mom, which was I don't even know what episode it was in, but it was really fun because I don't normally play moms because my voice is really young sounding, but it was really funny. I mean, it was just like really outside of my normal voice range, and so I don't know if anybody remembers what that was.
I remember that karaoke one.
You do? Okay. Yeah, I don't even remember the name of the character in that, but it was fun.
Have you had any instances where people would actually recognize your voice on the street, and how odd were their reactions if they did recognize your voice?
Yeah, I think that's happened to me a couple of times. Actually, in really weird situations, like not people that I would have expected to be anime fans, and then all of a sudden they went, oh, "You played, Min-May or whatever it was," and they go nuts. Yeah, it was really funny.
I'm always surprised that I'll get information sent to me and it's like, don't know I was a character in either a game or in a show where I never even took credit. So it's like, you guys are good. Wow.
I'm always surprised that Tenchi had such a big influence. A neighbor of mine was talking about, he's kind of into anime, and he's about 23, 24, something like that. And so I told him, oh, I voiced an anime character once. And he says, really, which one? And I said, well, it was kind of a long time ago. It's called Tenchi Muyo. And he goes, what character? And I said, she was a space pirate, Ryoko. And he's like, you were Ryoko? We share the back fence. His dog barks at my dog. I think it must be really strange to him. I'm friends with his parents.
One of the funniest things was my boyfriend worked on Star Trek for 11 years on Enterprise and Voyager, and he was talking to one of the assistants and telling him that he knew me, that I had worked on Robotech, and this guy got so excited that he actually called him on the phone and I had to talk to him. And he just was working on a big, huge production of Star Trek, it's like, whoa, this is really weird.
Sherry, have you ever had an experience like that? I know you did Jasmine, Disney's film, right?
Yeah, well, I've been really, I have to just say, I'm just so lucky. It's always, I just say it's all in luck that I get the opportunity to do these things. It's, I've done most of the Pixar films and Disney films. From my first one, which again, like Tenchi holds a soft spot for me as far as anime goes, was Little Mermaid, because that was my first really big, Disney film. And so it's fun. But it's true. It's amazing how people just recognize your voice. No hiding anything here.
That's not fun. No? You're loud enough.
I can hear you.
This may sound incredibly stupid, but what part did you play? I'm incredibly ignorant right now.
In Tenchi?
No, Little Mermaid.
Little Mermaid. Now you're going back almost how many years? I was in one of the sister voices, and then there was like a little group of fish at some point. It was like a school of fish. If there's like a school or there's children around, I'm there.
You don't get into Disney pictures just by luck.
Thank you.
Next person with a question, go for it.
As far as sound room anecdotes, I've talked to other voice actors and always have their worst story. Like somebody like Peter Cullen, for example, he talks about how he's spitting up blood, like that. It's like, what's some of your like screwed up stories?
I'll go for that one. Two things are my horror in doing any kind of voiceover work. One, where you've been working so hard, and especially anime, you know, you have to, it's the time code, and it's the lip flap, and the whole thing, and then you're just exhausted, and you get the giggles. Horrible, there's no getting Sherry out of it, and then there's always one word or one name in the script that I cannot say for the life of me, and it's like every other line. So those are my horror stories.
Okay, I have two. One, I think I did 47 takes on the word brewery because I didn't realize I have trouble saying R's until that word. So that was really frustrating. And the only other ridiculous thing I had, I used to do a character Strawberry Shortcake, but I did her on records and personal appearances as this thing years ago. And so I did a lot of talking and singing on these children's records. One night on David Letterman, he says, "This is the worst thing I have ever heard someone sing. You won't believe how high this person goes." And he holds up my Strawberry Shortcake record. And he puts on me doing New York, New York in a sound only dogs could hear. That was me.
I have one. There was an episode of Tenchi Muyo when Ryoko sang a sort of a rock tune. And I don't remember what it was, but of course in the Japanese episode, Orikasa sang it. And they translated it into English, and this was when Tenchi, in the early episodes when Tenchi was still produced by Pioneer, I believe, and our Japanese producer, what was her name? Miyoko Miura.
We had a lot of them.
Yeah, Miyoko really wanted me to sing it because she wanted it in the same voice as the speaking voice, and I told Miyoko, I can't sing. And she said, "Oh, of course you can sing. You can speak, you know, you're a good talker, of course you can sing." And I said, "Well, I can carry a tune, you know, but I can't sing a rock song. You have to be a really good singer to do rock." And she gave me the song, and she insisted that I sing it. She sent me home and told me to practice, and I did. I went home and I practiced, and in the shower I was superb. I was terrified, and I knew I really couldn't do it. And you know, they pay for studio time. That's one of the biggest expenses in these productions. And I made everybody sit at the other side where they couldn't see me, and then I moved the mic back behind the wall so that nobody could see me. And I really tried, but I could just feel them over there laughing. It was the worst embarrassment I've ever felt in my life. And they let me get about halfway through the song. And then they believed me.
I think for me, it's being asked to do an accent, like a certain type of accent. There's a few accents I could do pretty easily, like a New York accent or a Southern accent, but every once in a while I get asked to do an Asian accent, and I just can't do it. I don't know what it is, I just don't have that ear for that. So that's always scary.
Can you try one right now?
Have you guys ever met someone who had copy your voice as a job? I know a lot of voice actors these days have other people copy them.
Oh yeah, Melissa Fun, I always, either I'm doing her voice when she's off doing the show, or I guess she does some of my voices, I don't know. She sounds sort of similar.
I'm sure they do it, I've never met them.
No.
Anyone else with a question? Oh, we've got plenty of them.
Being that all of you ladies are voice actresses, have you ever actually created independent voices, like little characters on your own? Just kind of like a voice that's always stuck with you? maybe that you haven't used for a specific anime character yet, or Disney character, or whatever it may be?
I almost always get cast for my voice for some reason. Not really doing too much of a variation, although maybe younger or older. So I don't really go around making voices like when I'm not working. I've done a voice tape. I mean, you can listen to my voice tape on my website. A few I made up on that.
Also, as an actor, it's kind of like anything else. You get your character, you'll see the picture or the description, and then from that you create the voice.
So you've never done anything independent?
Just making voices on my own.
Yeah, just like something that you...
I talk to my dog. I really talk weird to my dog.
Voice that maybe you created, but like you couldn't use it for a character. You created it for a character, but then they said this wasn't the right voice.
I think you try that all the time, but it's your job, so you're being paid to do a voice. So if one doesn't work, your job is to come up with something else till they like it.
I remember Ellen and I met on My Little Pony, and the audition, we had to come up with 30 different pony voices. And they gave us a week with a description of the ponies, and it was homework. And I was listening to, older actresses, Betty Davis and Marilyn and all those people, just trying to get little nuances from it. So that in that way, I hope that answers your question. We come up and we create characters in that way, voices.
Are there any current projects you guys are working on that we should be looking forward to in the near future, or is out right now?
I've just been working on a movie that's going to come out called The Lorax. It's a Dr. Seuss movie. And it's kind of fun. I've been working on that one. And then with Pixar, they've been doing some Monsters, Inc. is having like little shorts. So we're doing a couple of those.
Next question.
I didn't want to...
This one's for Rebecca. I'm going to go a little bit off subject, but I'm a fan of a parody series called Code Mint. And I was wondering if you could do Nanali's voice. Did you say, every day I pray I was adopted in Nanali's voice?
Every day I pray I was adopted.
There was a question on the back. Is that correct?
Yeah, I was gonna ask, this was from Shreya. I was wondering, you didn't do the voice of Ryoko for OVA 3, as I recall. Any particular reason?
If it was more, I would probably get that question. There is a particular reason, but I don't think I should talk about it. It's really just a business reason, and I think it would be unprofessional of me to discuss it publicly. But I do want to say something else about that, if it's okay with you. I've gotten a lot of email from fans. People have been really supportive and asking me if I'm going to come back and if there's another OVA and OVA. And I really, really appreciate that. And I loved playing Ryoko, and I would do it again if asked and if everything worked out. So just to dispel any rumors about that. And I also want to say that some people have said some kind of disparaging things about Mona Marshall playing the role. And I think, I don't know Mona, I've never met her, but I certainly know who she is. I think she's a voice acting superstar and a consummate professional. And I don't know of any actor who ever gives less than their best when they're working. So if you ever hear anybody say anything bad about her, I would just suggest that, maybe that person got used to hearing one person playing the character and they're just not used to hearing another person playing it. And that's all it is. And I think Mona's terrific. So that's what I would say.
any of you ever get to meet or interact with your Japanese counterparts who did the roles, the Tenchi roles?
In the very beginning, very beginning, do you remember, we were talking about that earlier. After we'd done maybe just 3 or 4 episodes at the most, there was, we were vaguely remembering this. There was a convention in Anaheim that our producers took us to, and the Japanese actors were there as they came, and we all sat on a panel together. And that's about all we remember. We had no idea what we were getting into. Anime hadn't quite taken off yet. I think the Japanese actors were really sophisticated. They knew all about this, what was happening. And we were kind of, do you remember? I remember she was this hot little thing, and all the guys were really just boggling. I just kept looking at her going, whoa, this thing, what do you... She just really knew what was doing. I had no idea.
As a follow-up, when you guys first got your roles, were you given the voices, the original Japanese voices, as part of you building your character? Did you hear your counterparts, and that's something that you worked on? I know you all said that you take the homework home and you build a voice from the character. Or did you have a chance to hear the originals, in other words?
At the audition, I remember Miyoko letting us hear different voices, and we actually auditioned for multiple roles until we were given the one. So, and when you go in to do a show, they'll always play the character in your ear, you don't get it ahead of time like now when we're cast. It's like you go in, here's your script, you're going to do this line, listen to the sound and try and get the same tone, and the directors who hire you kind of know, what your range is and that if you're able to do it or not.
Yeah, we never know. We don't even know what the story's about most of the time. We just go in and we do our little parts. So it's pretty much cold reading through the whole thing. But they do play the Japanese. When I first started doing anime stuff, they didn't always do that because they were kind of rewriting the story for an American audience. But now they want to stick as close to the Japanese as possible, so we always do listen to it. Trying to get the feel of it.
Yeah, you try to honor the original actor.
Yeah, I just wondered, like, how was like the, what do you feel was like the difference between like doing the show and doing the movie?
It's really funny when we do voice work. Usually we don't even know the difference. It's like, oh, I was in the movie. I didn't even know that.
Yeah. Honestly, you just get the script right there with your lines, and I have no idea what any other character's doing, what the story's about. Occasionally they'll say, "You're really scared right now," and I'm like, "Oh, okay," So it's that much of the working in the dark, continually.
You always consider yourself lucky if somebody else has recorded their tracks before you, so that at least you get to act with somebody else's voice, and then you have a kind of a better idea of what's going on. If you're the first one to record that scene, you're kind of flying blind. Likewise, or when Matt or somebody else, anybody else, I was always thrilled to have somebody else to act with. Otherwise, you're acting by yourself, and you have to hope that the director at least has a pretty good idea of what's going on.
We can take 2 more questions.
Since all of you have been in the voice industry for so long, I actually took a couple of courses when I was in school. I was wondering if you actually have your own home studio that you've made for yourselves. Because my teacher had one of those, and she did the whole little sound box and stuff like that. Do any of you have that for yourselves at home?
That's actually, been something that's been a little bit difficult for a lot of voice actors, because it used to be that we would go into our agent's office and audition, and they did all the stuff and they'd send it in and everything, and then And now it's like you have to have your own home studio if you want to do it. You don't have to have a big expensive one, but at least you have to have a microphone, a decent microphone, and some way to record. And I just use, I'm not, you know, I can't get the sound like an engineer can get, so it's really frustrating sometimes, and I just use Audacity.
Closet.
Yeah, see, it doesn't have to be really expensive.
When you guys first started on the Tenchi series, a lot of you used different names. Was there a reason behind that, or were people not sure they were going to keep doing this, or
Stalkers.
stuff?
Did we? I remember on that show. Sometimes, well, see the way dubbing, they call it dubbing, is a whole different animal when it comes to voice acting, and as far as like contracts and things like that. And they didn't, for a long time, they just didn't even have a contract. We tried, but people didn't take it seriously because they didn't really know what it was. So sometimes we protected ourselves.
I know you had your questions, so let's get that in.
Okay, this is for everyone on the panel. What is your favorite line from Tenchi Muyo? And if you can, do that line in the voice.
I couldn't give you a line, honestly, but I'll tell you the favorite thing that I personally did, and I have no idea the episode, but I had to sing in it. And I didn't sing. So I've been a professional singer, so doing that was my favorite moment. And I'm not going to sing.
You know, I'm so sorry. I can't remember a specific line. I just know Sasami was always talking about food, and Pretty Sammy was always talking about her love wand. So I mean, it was pretty much, those were my two lines that, you know.
Yeah. Yeah, it was more like chewing sounds. Yeah, because Mikoshi was always hungry too.
Yeah.
You have to do the sound effects too.
Yeah, we did. It's been nearly 10 years since the last episode we recorded, so you'll forgive me if I don't remember any of the lines.
If you give us a line,
but
I
What's your favorite line?
Yeah, I like to laugh. The laugh.
Ryoko's laugh.
Ryoko's laugh. Ryoko's laugh is my laugh.
Just laugh.
You know, I just say
Anyone got a
something
funny
funny.
joke? Yeah.
Get some jokes out on here.
I just, yeah, I think her voice is my voice, pretty much. You know, or how I would be if I were 700 years old and just hang out with some guy who was hanging out with all these other women who were frankly not nearly as interesting as I was. That was in character, that wasn't me.
You also have to remember we probably all have ARP cards, so we can't remember a lot.
You don't know what an ARP card is.
Oh, ARP.
Don't say it.
Over a certain age.
It's right before you become Soylent Green.
Round of applause for our guest.
Back in 2007, ADB and Genie and I pretty much went technical uniform back at AX. You know, it was kind of a big deal, and I was just wondering, you know, I was leading that, pretty much leads Funimation, Bandai, and maybe a couple of others. Just wondering, has it been hard getting work since then? In either anime or mainstream cartoons?
Oh yeah, well I can speak for anime because they've done quite a bit of it. It has. I think part of it, you know, was the recession and the reason that people were downloading stuff off the internet. And what's happened is that Japan, from what I've heard or read in different articles, isn't producing as much stuff as they used to. And the stuff that they are producing is more of the hentai type of thing. So, and then what happened was after we had a lot of work going when Saban Entertainment was here, And then when he sold that company, a lot of the other companies were sort of undercutting as far as like the rates and things like that. So they were getting more and more non-union people to work. And then all of a sudden, a lot of stuff just moved to Texas and other areas. So it's been a little bit, yeah, it's been different. You know, there's not as much product coming up, and there's also the a lot more competition as far as working in Los Angeles. I think that's probably true for a lot of
That was a good
regular.
answer. I was just
Yeah,
going to
well, I think it's
what
true
she said.
for animation too. I mean, I think,
animation's just changed so much in the last, you know, I would say, well, I always attribute it to when Robin Williams did, what was the movie?
Everybody attributes it to
Aladdin, you know, which I was fortunate enough to work on, but ever since he did this huge article in the Times saying this is the best job ever, every celebrity in town wants to do it, and so it's kind of for us voiceover actors who've, you know, worked and studied and done all our homework, we kind of are just fortunate if we get into the movie, let alone one of the leads or something.
Right.
In fact, there was, I think it was the New York Times that very recently, like within the last month, there was an article about how that was the beginning.
Was it?
Yeah.
I thought I made that up.
Well, you did, because you said
I'm
that
glad they
before a
backed
month
me
ago.
up,
They backed you up,
yeah.
Yeah, it's been a little on the dry side. I think the thing that's been pretty busy are video games. That's still pretty much going. For me personally, I think a lot of the video games are mainly men. So I've gone off to do other things like blogging and you know that type of thing.
Yeah, me too.
Do you guys have any favorite episodes?
Favorite episodes?
Yeah.
We did talk about favorite
Yeah, we
episodes.
did. You talked about your favorite upstairs or downstairs,
Wherever we were.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked being bad. That was fun. It was more fun than the Tenchi, you know,
Yeah, we were
begging
all
for love.
loving Tenchi. We were all on the same page with that one.
When we were recording, I think what a lot of people don't realize is that we're just handed this script and, you know, maybe we'll go from one episode to the next, but we don't really know what episode it is or what the name of it is, because sometimes they rename them, you know, after they've been recorded. So they just are sort of, they become kind of a big blur. Like we can remember maybe little scenes and things. I mean, for me, I was mentioning in the other room that it wasn't even Mihoshi, the one that I remembered. I played a karaoke singing mom, which is something I almost never get cast for, at least especially back then, because there were other people that would play moms. I always played the little girls. And it was fun because she was like this really crazy, off the wall, loud, you know, insane kind of character, so it was fun to play. I mean, Mihoshi was too, actually.
Yeah, she did. I just remember a lot of yelling and screaming, and sometimes, you know, that we would save all the real fighting for
the
end of the session, because even if you have warmed up and you've trained your voice and you know what you're doing, that much screaming and yelling is still going to be hard on you. And so we would always wait till the end for all the real kind of stuff. You know, if Ryoko had a bone to pick with somebody, she picked it at the end of the session.
She usually did.
Yeah.
When you guys made when you guys went from doing the OVA and the TV series to doing the movies, was there a big change? Because I noticed there was a change in the sound quality between the two. Was there a big change on how much prep time you guys had and the equipment that was used, or was it pretty much still?
Prep time's always about the same.
Yeah.
Literally, I think I said this, you know, in the other room. Literally, you're given your script like, "Hey, Rebecca, great to see you. Okay, you're going to be doing. Ready to go?" You know, and you have no idea what came before or after your little bit. So that's pretty much the same as doing it in the movie. The only thing that changed were we had different directors and producers and.
There's no prep time. The only thing I can think of as far as a change in sound quality might be a change in studio.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So you guys did change studios?
Oh,
We
yeah,
did.
yeah.
Okay.
From time to time.
And
I think I went
find
to about 3 studios at least.
I find that, don't you, like, in doing our games or whatever anime we're doing, you have your favorite studio and your favorite engineer and the mic that really likes
Place
you,
you really
and then
like.
there's other places you go and the mic just does not want to be your friend that day, you know, and you're popping and kissing
Yeah.
and
That's true.
so you do get to have your favorite studios as you do things.
I think probably the ones that were done at Screen Music, which is it's not there anymore, but it was a really, really nice studio. I think they probably had the better sound quality. And then I remember we moved to another, at one point, I don't even know what part of it was. We were at some little kind of
I think I know
funky
which one.
looking place, I don't know.
Yeah, I know exactly which one you're talking about. You kind of snuck in the back door.
Yeah,
and-
exactly. Recording studios can be really funny, you know, because they can be just, you know, in a really fancy place to like a little tiny phone booth
Yeah.
kind of thing.
There's places where they fix you lunch, and not only that, but they ask you, what do you want for lunch? And you say, well, what can I have? And they say, anything.
Yeah.
Or then there's the place where, they stick you back in the corner, and they've got that rubber stuff on the walls. and
Yeah.
No place to sit. Yeah, they're all different. Sorry, you had a question.
I was just gonna ask how hard it is to get in and out of character, and like if sometimes you start thinking of the other characters you played in the past when you're, trying to do your voice acting.
I think I'm sorry.
No, you go.
Okay. One of the things that I think all actors do, regardless of voice acting or stage or film or whatever, the really good actors know how to be in character and really, something about really believing in what they're doing. Screen actors, you see that they have one take to do something really dramatic, and then, they go sit and have a cigarette or something, and then they come back and they do that thing again, and but they have to be able to throw themselves into that moment, and voice actors do it too. It's a level of concentration that, with practice, you can achieve when it's time to sit down and work, and you're aware that your production, whatever production you're in, is on a budget. It's time is money, and they put a lot into getting everything ready for that moment when you come in and do your thing. And so you really want to bring it. That's your job.
You don't have a lot to sit and think about your, who was I or who am I.
You do all that before you get there.
I find too is like, especially like if I'm doing, little girls come to me really easy. Moms are a little harder because our voices are light. Or little boys. If I'm doing a little boy and stuff, I actually do physical. I stand like a little boy at the mic, and and all of those little tricks will help you just immediately just be ready when they say, go.
I think also a lot of people don't realize that when you're dubbing, it's a whole different kind of technique than, say, regular animation or, being in a film or anything like that, because you have to hit the lip movements of something that has been previously done. So it's a really hard skill, and there's a lot of people that can't do it. But you have to do that technical thing first, and then you're hoping that you're going to get your performance out of it, But sometimes it's just in getting the lips into the right places. And somebody's saying, yeah, that's okay, I'm going to take that take, you don't have to do it again.
I think it's fortunate too, a lot of people who, the ones of us who do the dubbing and the, all of that is the fact that we have an inner clock. Some people just can't connect with that, and they'll literally say, can you shave off 1 second? And you have to have that knowledge, just innately to know, okay, I'm going to take off 1 second, and that'll make it work. So it's all those little skills.
It's usually a kind of a musicality, people that have a sense of rhythm in some way. In fact, it's really funny because Steve Kramer, who's, big voiceover actor, one time he was saying that every time the microwave goes off, he starts to talk. You know, beep, beep, beep.
Yeah, that's true. 3 feet.
I don't think you ever heard your little boy voice, Sherry. Can you,
Sure. Okay, gotta stand up. Yeah, right. Yeah, your mother. Am I bright red right now? I'm not used to performing in front of an audience like that. Just a mic.
So, for the characters that you guys done in the past, do they kind of carry on into your own personality? You kind of, I don't know.
I know that I have a hard, because not that I'm just so sweet, but I have a hard time playing the really villain or, you know, seductress, the bitchy character with the low. I would love to, but it's like when those are thrown at me, it takes a little bit more work to do that.
Yeah, well, I pretty much play my own voice for, I mean, I could probably do a lot of different types of characters, but they almost always cast me as my own voice and little aspects of my personality. Like for instance, when I did Minmay in Robotech, everybody, you know, was complaining that she was ditzy and everything, and I'm like, and Mihoshi too, and I was like, but that's me.
Yeah, I think that if they want somebody to do something different than what really comes naturally for you, they'll get somebody that it comes naturally for. You know what I mean? Unless they've already got you and they just need you to do a couple of lines.
Right.
You know. So, I mean, not that it comes naturally to me to be a villain, because I'm not a villainous person. I'm kind of a nice person, I like to think. But I can sound like a villain, and it's fun to play a villain, and I don't have any trouble playing a villain.
You can get those great low tones.
I can get some low tones, you know. So, and I would sound ridiculous as a ditzy character. You know, if I really had to do it, I could do it for a couple of lines, but I couldn't sustain the character over a whole set of episodes, you know, because it just doesn't come naturally to me. And then I think, you know, it's better to get somebody, if I were producing, I'd rather have somebody who could just do it naturally.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's easier on your voice too, because like what you were saying about doing boy voices, I don't do a lot of boy voices, but when I do them, I can't sustain it for a long period of time. Like I couldn't work an 8-hour day, which I couldn't even anyway, but anymore. But yeah, I mean, my voice would be
it's rough on
garbage.
Yeah.
Sherry, when you do a wide range of voices, this kind of goes back to the other question. Have you ever gotten locked into a specific voice that's different than yours in a studio, then left the studio, gone to 7-Eleven or something, and projected that voice?
Well, you'll see me in my car like a lot of times. Yeah, talking to myself in that voice as I leave, you know. But usually it's also because I'm going, you know, I either was like kind of happy with what I did, or I was going, oh shoot, I should have done, you know, and playing with it as I go home and trying to remember it for something else, you know, at another time. So
We should pass each other in our cars, because I think I do the same thing.
yeah.
Are there any projects that you guys are working on currently that you're excited about?
I have something that has nothing to do with animation or
Well, no,
anime.
that's fine. I mean, that was the question
Can
as
I-
well. 'Cause
okay.
I know you guys
All
have a wide background as well. It's not just animation.
Okay.
So yeah, that was my question.
Okay. I haven't been acting for about 3 years now. I quit acting to devote myself to writing, which may sound really weird, but that's what I wanted to do. And I have a website, patriaburchard.com, and I finished a novel, and I started on another one, and this is what I'm doing. So I'm trying to, I'm now sending out query letters to literary agents to try to sell my novel, which is called Camelot and Vine, kind of like Hollywood and Vine. And it's about an unhappy Hollywood actress who is sort of a, be careful what you wish for accident. She fantasizes about romance with King Arthur and wishes that he would come and carry her away from it all. And unfortunately for her, she gets her wish. And finds herself in 6th century Britain, where there is like absolutely no toilet paper, and, no Kleenex and no nail polish, and the food is awful, and it's also really, really dangerous. And she has to use all her smarts to protect herself and find her way back to the 21st century. And she's not really sure she wants to return. So that's the book that I am trying to market right now. I'm working on another one. I'm having a blast. I never in a million years thought that I would quit acting. Because when you start, you don't ever want to do anything else. You don't think you're ever going to do anything else. But sure enough, I'm enjoying myself like crazy. So that's my project. And thank you for asking. I wanted to talk about it.
I'm still working on a movie called The Lorax. It's a Dr. Seuss film.
That's so cool.
And that's coming out, I bet it's coming out in next summer maybe, I'm thinking. And I also have a children's theater company called Southern California, no, that's my camp. We have, it's the Children's Theater Group of Southern California, and it's a theater company for children in North Hollywood, which I'm kind of passionate about. And then we have a summer program, which is an art camp for 5 to 13-year-olds. And we cover like all the bases, the visual and the performing arts, like over 40 different workshops. And it's like my other life is I'm surrounded by children, and it's kind of cool to see them become these very self-confident, strong little individuals. For some reason, I think theater attracts kids and individuals who have a hard time in school and socially, and that's probably why we are no. And it's just great to see that they have a home away from home where they can really discover themselves and feel good about who they are. So that's my other life.
Yeah, I also have another life too. I still do voice acting, but I'm not like out there pushing it anymore. I became involved with some entrepreneurial pursuits, and right now I have my own company that puts up WordPress blogs, so I put up blogs for people, and I'm also a blogger. So I have my own blog for myself for my acting career called RebeccaForstadt.com, but I also have about 6 other blogs, and but I just work with all kinds of really fascinating people, just people that are building businesses, and kind of transformational people, and people in the health field, and all kinds of things. So it's a lot of fun.
That's really cool.
Life outside.
I became a geek. I realized I was a geek at heart.
Who knew? I'm a nerd.
We all are.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm proud of it.
Yeah.
But how many episodes at a time can you guys knock out, during a recording session?
Usually we've done it like three, I would say, is like pretty much the usual.
It can depend on how heavy your part is in that
depends on how many
episode.
lines you have. I mean, you could do, whip through a whole bunch of them if you just have a few lines in each one. But if you're a main character, that could take, quite a few hours to just get through one sometimes.
You guys still under, I think it's guild rules, you want to do like 4 hours at a time, like that?
I think for the most part we don't work more than 4 hours if possible, on it, especially for looping or dubbing. Maybe if you're doing an ADR job, for a feature film, you might work all day on that. But that's about all that people's voices can take, especially in anime, because you're always screaming and yelling and fighting and doing things like that. falling out of airplanes. It takes a lot out of you. I had this part, it wasn't an anime, but it's this part in the Mr. Men show called Miss Giggles. And every time she does a line, she's giggling her head off. And I can't believe how physically demanding that is. Because what happened when I was recording it, we had this huge fire near where I lived. And there was a lot of smoke in the air and stuff, and it just really got into my lungs. And so ever since that happened about 2 years ago, it's taken me a long time to get my lung capacity back, and it's still not really where it used to be. So I used to be a great screamer, and I could do all those reaction things and stuff. Not as easy anymore.
Do we have any more questions?
When you guys, when you have one of those pretty intensive sessions, how do you deal with that after the fact, the soreness, and how do you get your voice back to the way it was?
Well, hopefully you control your voice, because we've learned as actors, especially if you've been on stage and you're learning how to project your voice or singing or any of those things where you learn how to control it so that you don't knock out your voice. But if the worst part is if you have, well, one time I did this series called Snow Fairy Sugar, and I had a lot of episodes, and we were working really crazy hours, like late at night and everything. And I had caught in a cold, and it went into bronchitis, and I just was having the hardest time. And there's several episodes in that show where my voice just sounds really gravelly. It's just not me. I wish I could have redone it. And that's always, scary.
Yeah, our nightmare, laryngitis.
Yeah, it's more preventative, hopefully. You go in and you do it in the right voice and in the right register so that you don't wreck it. If you do, I had a session last week. I do Stater Brothers Markets weekly commercials, which is a local grocery store chain. And I had a session last week. You know how every once in a while you take a sip of water and it just goes down the wrong pipe?
Yeah.
I did that in the car on the way to the session.
Oh.
And I was coughing on the way to the session. And I had 20 minutes before the session. I couldn't talk. And I thought, oh, this is awful. I'm not going to be able to do my session. And then, I calmed down and just did some of the old warm-ups that I remember, like from way back in the beginning. Za 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 za, blah 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 blah. Just dumb stuff in the car driving down Beverly Boulevard, and got it back. So I think it has a little bit to do with not panicking, and just we've learned how to do it. There's maybe that time I didn't actually ruin anything because I had already done my warm-ups that morning and I was ready to go. So it was a minor deal.
I think a lot of our directors are sensitive to it too.
Mm-hmm.
They'll say, "Oh boy, you've got a lot of yelling and screaming to do," and so they'll always do that at the end. And they, for the most part, I'd say, they work with you and are really helpful and conscientious of that. They don't want us to lose our voice.
They need us to keep our voices.
So what happens is, say you actually did blow your voice on a roll. I mean, like you're right in the middle of it, and all of a sudden it just doesn't come out anymore. What happens then?
A lot of tea and hot lemonade, or lemon, hot lemon. It really works good. Or
I think only once I literally had to cancel a session, and I had gotten sick and I had laryngitis, and I just felt so bad. It was like, no, I've got to go to work because they're all counting on me. And I went, and I think I did like 1 or 2 lines, and they just went, "Sherry,
We'll
reschedule. Don't worry, go home." So, that was like my only time I really felt like I failed them.
Yeah, for Tenchi, it's not like we were doing episode day after day after day after day, all bunched together. So I don't remember ever having to. I do remember 1 or 2 sessions where I felt a little raw at the end of the session, But I didn't have to come in the next morning or anything like that, so I could rest it, and I never really encountered any problems like that.
And here's a fun question. In Tenchi, since he never actually chose one of the girls, who do you think he would have chosen?
Sasami, of course. Is there a question, right?
You know, I don't think the guy has the cojones to make a choice.
I think he's more on the other side. I don't know.
I just think it was one of those shows that was ahead of its time. We were very strong women in there, you know, and kind of, you know. There were certain times, certain things he did, you're going, would she really be after him still?
Yeah,
Okay.
really. Yeah, that was a fantasy, let's face it. I wonder, Matt must get asked that question every time he does a convention.
Probably,
Who would Tenchi have chosen?
Probably, yeah.
He was kind of a sweet little innocent guy, though, you know?
You know, I'm going to email him and just ask him. Settle this once and for all.
Yeah, he gets an email from all of us. No, really, who?
So here's a question then, following on to that. If you didn't choose, would your characters have been willing to share?
Ryoko would not. Oh no.
But you know, I feel like we all were kind of sharing anyway a lot. When you think about it, we did a lot of sharing in that show.
I think Mihoshi would definitely share.
I think for Ryoko, the fighting was part of the fun, so maybe she would. As long as she didn't have to admit that was what she was doing.
Sasami would just cook him a meal and win his heart that way. So. If all else failed, just get in the kitchen, Sasami.
Okay. Do you mind if we just have a quick photo session?
Sure.
Be comfortable.
I might take my glasses off.
Oh yeah. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Oh, goodness.
Well, a couple seated and we'll do a couple standing.
Okay. Seated together.
Should we have our name tags?
Yes, please.
I'm going to try really hard not to go
Number one.
Here?
Yeah.
Look at him.
Look at that light.
Trevor.
Whoa.
Is there Photoshop in that camera?
Have you heard about the cameras that you can do the focusing after you shoot?
Really?
I need that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a new kind of.
Near field cameras, those are wonderful. More.
Is there a little idea bubble over your head?
That's true.